They say loneliness often slips in unnoticed, like a whisper of fog over a quiet field. But sometimes it knocks loudly, wearing a face you once knew, arriving in the middle of a storm. My name is Margaret. I'm 61 years old, and for nearly 8 years now, I've lived alone in this peaceful old house in Virginia, ever since my husband Alan passed. Over time, life shaped itself into a quiet rhythm. Mornings with a cup of tea, afternoons buried in novels, and evenings humming with soft, undisturbed silence. I never felt empty. I never felt impatient. Or at least I didn't think I did. And then last weekend happened. The rain began just after dusk. It wasn't harsh or angry, but soft and rhythmic, like fingers tapping politely at the windows. That's when the phone rang. It was James, an old friend, one of Alan's closest companions from college. I hadn't spoken to him in more than 10 years. Our contact had dwindled down to the occasional birthday note or holiday card. He said he was passing through town and wondered if we could meet. I offered to meet at a cafe, neutral ground. But something shifted in his tone, an apologetic, hesitant edge. Hotels were full, he said, thanks to some local wine festival. Would I mind if he stayed the night? There was a pause in my chest, a flicker of something, but I brushed it aside. I had a tidy guest room, and he was an old friend. When he arrived, soaked from head to toe, the rain still clinging to him, he brought with him the scent of damp earth, aged leather, and something else I couldn't quite name. Perhaps it was memory. James had aged well. Streaks of silver danced through his beard and temples, but that familiar, easy grin still lit up his face. We stood in the entryway in silence for a breath, as if both of us were listening to the same ghost of the past. Slowly, the weight of time between us began to melt. We moved into the kitchen. He poured himself a cup of tea, added a generous splash of bourbon, and just like that, we fell into conversation that felt natural and strangely comforting. He asked about my kids. I asked about life after retirement. There was laughter, soft and unforced, and long pauses that, surprisingly, didn't feel awkward at all. Then it happened, something small yet undeniable, a shift in the atmosphere. He leaned over and gently brushed a strand of hair from my face, tucking it behind my ear. His fingertips grazed my cheek, warm and steady. I froze, not out of fear but because of what stirred in me. Something I hadn't expected to feel. I met his gaze. We said nothing. We didn't have to. The moment passed quietly. Neither of us spoke of it. Around 11, I showed him to the guest room. It was modest. Fresh sheets, a lamp for reading, a view of the back garden. He smiled. It lingered a second longer than it should have. I closed my bedroom door and leaned against it, hand still on the knob. My chest was thrumming, alive in a way it hadn't been in years. Something long dormant had stirred. Midnight I woke suddenly. I couldn't say why. Maybe it was the rain. Or maybe it was the stillness. I reached for a glass of water and then I heard it. A step. Gentle. Measured. My door creaked open. The house was bathed in darkness, except for a soft, flickering light glowing beneath the guest room door. Candlelight. I crept quietly down the hallway and nudged the door open. There he was. James sat on the edge of the bed, the candle casting golden flickers across his face. He looked up, startled at first, then relaxed. "I couldn't sleep," he murmured, voice barely above a breath. "Too many thoughts." I nodded, stepping into the room without really knowing why. "You okay?" I whispered. He sighed. "Being here. It brings back so much. Alan. The old days. Your laughter. This house." He looked down at his hands. "I'm sorry about earlier. With your hair. I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable." "You didn't," I said gently before he could finish. And I meant it. There was something unguarded in his face. Something soft. And for the first time I didn't feel unsure. I just didn't know where it was all leading. He reached out, his fingers finding mine. The warmth was grounding. Not a spark, but an anchor. I sat beside him. "It's strange," I whispered. How silence can suddenly feel like companionship. He smiled faintly. Not strange at all. I think some silences are well earned. We didn't kiss. We didn't do more than hold hands. But we talked. Really talked. Time dissolved. He spoke of his divorce 10 years ago. How love had slowly faded like an old photograph left in the sun. I told him about losing Alan. About how I'd slowly learned to sleep on just one side of the bed. I shared things I hadn't even told my children. My fears of growing invisible, of being left behind by life, of becoming background noise.